Welcome to another audio essay from the Dadlet Pod. This one titled, Can Playing Games with Literature Boost Male Fiction Reading? My name is Dan Roberts. My mind works like a skipping record. It plays a thought, goes back, and plays the thought again. That continues until I fix the needle and listen to the whole song or choose another one. This is how I write books. It is also how I end up ruminating over negative thoughts. Pursuing writing has gone a long way to empowering me to ignore the self-critical tracks by filling my mind with the music of ideas. One of the critical thoughts I ignore is, no one is actually interested in Dadlet. I have replaced this rather dull track with, ambition is good, so. Ambition is good, so I will start another novel. Ambition is good, so I will continue to try and sell my novels. Ambition is good, so I will interview people in publishing who interest me. Ambition is good, so I will write audio essays. And ambition is good, so I will figure out a way to sell so much Dadlet that it will become a thing. By thing, I mean that Dadlet will be like yacht rock or the stalls at fairs in the South that will fry anything you put in front of them, like Oreos or ice cream. People may laugh on hearing it initially, but deep down it will pique their interest, and after a couple drinks, they're going to want to investigate this Dadlet thing. But to be a recognized thing, Dadlet needs an audience, and getting that audience requires marketing. I recently quipped that male authors are not competing with female authors for publishing contracts. They are actually competing with the instant gratification media, including video games, sports gambling, and pornography. I don't personally have a problem with those things, but I believe, like other Dadlet authors, that our product offers something more substantial, namely a soul, a sense of purpose, and a vision of a world where people seek duty and aspire to create and savor things that require patience, commitment, and hard work, like a shed or a nuclear reactor capable of carrying us to new worlds. Last I checked, porn does not inspire that sort of journey. Still, I am open to compromise. Not with porn yet, but definitely with gaming. So I bring forth the following idea to dad listeners and dad readers and dad authors. That idea is actually rather simple. All authors should aspire to write tie-in novels. A tie-in novel is a novel where the setting and sometimes the characters are tied to an existing piece of intellectual property that is not another book. I think of the Star Wars, The Expanded Universe, or Sesame Street's Grover, the monster at the end of the book. The tie-in gives the author limitations to adhere to certain elements of the intellectual property, but otherwise frees them to act on their imaginations. It is not fan fiction, but rather fiction for fans. And I have found few places that have been more successful with capturing the literary possibilities of the tie-in than the British company Games Workshop. Games Workshop makes games. Their most popular game is called Warhammer 40,000, or Warhammer 40K for short. It is the most popular miniature war game in the world, and it has 2 million active players. The vast majority of them are men. Tabletop war games use miniatures. They're teeny models that you purchase, customize, and paint. Warhammer miniatures are delightfully grotesque and prickly. They have claws and machine guns, chainsaw swords, spaceships, mechs, tanks, flamethrowers, and all sorts of cool shit. Warhammer players use the miniatures to simulate battles on a tabletop featuring obstacles and faux terrain. These elaborate settings include miniature buildings, hills, trees, lampposts, castles, spaceships, and are often as interesting as the models themselves. The players take turns moving their model armies and staging fights that are resolved by rolling dice and applying attributes expressed using simple arithmetic. As if this were all not fun enough, the rules and setting and characters and miniatures are all backed by an expansive social universe. The armies operate under extreme ideologies. They have murderous politics and awe-inspiring myths. There are vicious tribes, killer robots, savage aliens, and supernatural and futuristic weaponry. One of the armies requires the use of a commissar in the classical Soviet style. If he is killed on the field, the men he commands falter and lose the inspiration to move forward. The Warhammer universe is dark. In fact, it is grimdark. It is a distant future where human civilization is in ruins and beset by hostile aliens and robots. It is not nihilistic, but rather survivalistic. It is a universe where every group hangs onto existence by a thread, ready to be overwhelmed and destroyed by enemies who are morally, physiologically, and instinctually in competition with them. Everywhere is decay. In fact, the very term grim dark, a contemporary genre of science fiction and fantasy literature, is derived from the Warhammer 40K logo line. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. To buoy and inspire the players to invent and immerse themselves in this future hellscape, Games Workshop developed a mythic shared reality by publishing a large body of novels through the Black Library. This is Games Workshop's publishing division. The Black Library has produced hundreds of tie-in novels. They were initially confined to rule books and comics, but over the past 38 years, this expanded into entire book series. The Black Library even created an offshoot science fiction and fantasy publisher called Solaris. They sold it to Rebellion Publishing. These Black Library novels define the realities of Warhammer 40K armies within the game. Games Workshop uses authors, model makers, and rule makers to create the gaming experience. Characters and weaponry from novels become miniature, making it possible to play a physical manifestation of the story. Let me give you an example. The trilogy Blood Quest, Eye of Terror, was written by Gordon Rennie and Colin McNeil. This series tells the story of a special unit called the Blood Angels within the Army called Space Marines. In the Blood Quest trilogy, Captain of the Blood Angels, Leonidas, loses in Carmine, the sword of Belarius, to the Orc, Garshal the Destroyer. Leonidas and his men are exiled for their humiliation. Their new goal becomes to reclaim the sword and rejoin the ranks of the Space Marine. They follow the sword to the planet Eidolon, but crash land and must wage war against the forces of chaos to survive, and hopefully recover in Carmine and reclaim their honor. This is a Beowulfian story, if I've ever heard one. Now, when you play 40K, you can play as Leonidas. You can paint his Blood Angel Marines. You can set up their battle against chaos. And you can make the decisions for yourself. The Black Library has done this multiple times. They integrate the stories and myths created in the novels and put them in the rules of the game and get people excited to both play and to read. And the players of Warhammer 40K are very excited to read. Dan Abnett, a popular author for the Black Library, is one of the top 200 best-selling sci-fi and fantasy authors of all time. He's sold millions of Warhammer 40K books. For those who say schlock, other people's worlds, I say nonsense. You see, the freewheeling and grim post-imperial world of Warhammer 40K is rich in heroics, sacrifice, tactics, moral quandaries, fanaticism, and yes, even diversity. It has uncertain alliances, murderous zealots, and heroes all seeking to accomplish their vision of universal domination. The Warhammer 40k settings are near infinite. Characters can be created from the ether of a well-defined rule system that is meant to create contests as fair as our understanding of the realities of nature and science. And here's the kicker. Warhammer is a game enjoyed by very bright and successful people who are primed to read books. My friends who play Warhammer all have advanced degrees in things like education, public health, history, business, and medicine. They love Warhammer books. They have incredible patience. They are capable of painting tiny, detailed models. They read expansive rule books, study lore, and play the game for hours at a time. Also, Warhammer players are incredibly social, and they love to talk about all the shit that they watch, they do, and they read. Warhammer 40k is basically half a book club already. Also, Warhammer players tend to have money to spend on things. A 2,000-point army of Warhammer figurines costs around $500. The average Warhammer 40k player spends about $1,000 a year on the game. This includes figurines, paints, books, tables, etc. The spending is often subsidized by players selling their miniatures to incoming players who are looking to get started. My grandmother of blessed memory used to tell my father, "It's just as easy to marry a rich girl as it is to marry a poor girl." This is where we should be selling Dad Lit and Lit in general. And it turns out we wouldn't be the first. You see, I had a theory. There's no way that a bunch of postdocs in their 30s and 40s were just reading garbage. So, in preparing for this episode, I reached out to a certain science fiction book club based in the UK. I asked if they could point me to any Black Library authors. I wanted to ask them what they read in their spare time. The response I got delighted me. My sci-fi book club source informed me they knew an author who wrote for the Black Library, but that author probably was not going to want to talk to me. I asked why. They said, because they write Warhammer under a pen name. They are a very well-recognized British author with literary bona fides, and they like to anonymously pump out 2 Warhammer 40k books a year in their spare time. The best part, the author just does it for the fun of it. They don't even need the money. And that doesn't surprise me, because writing Warhammer tie-ins looks fun. The Warhammer intellectual property has everything and more that a dad-lit author would love. And it comes with action figures, vibrant marketing opportunities, and fans anxious and interested in deep, complex stories. This is any author's dream. The only bummer I see is that there aren't more authors trying to write Warhammer 40k novels. Dad-lit authors and known male and female luminaries should all want to write Warhammer 40k tie-ins and to put their own names on the cover. Imagine opening up the world of male literature to this terrific group of fans. We could have Jonathan Safran Foer's The Perils of Being a Tyranid Egg Larvae. Or how about this? Don DeLillo describing a battle from the perspective of a Tau robot consciousness. The cold, emotionless act of piercing a legendary orc warrior's leg and having it fall off. The whole thing done with no sense of pride or honor. Just a dreaded foe of the living. I see big-time AI parables. These literary luminaries could attend the biggest Warhammer 40k conventions, and they could see the armies they imagined play the field. At the same time, they could talk about their work. They could describe how it influenced their Warhammer 40k writing and their characters' perspectives. Then they could bring up their own literary background and other authors the Warhammer community should consider who tackle similar themes. Not only would it be fun, but it might open up new literary avenues of exploration by a well-to-do group of men who are already inclined to read. It could establish a new and inspired sense of literary celebrity and excitement. He did a Warhammer tie-in? What will the wild literary man do next? Perhaps these Warhammer men might even be inclined to dive into rich literary traditions that exist today, rather than fiddle in a chaotic space hell, which, according to most MFAs, is what we as humans are looking at if men don't start reading again anyway. Thank you. This has been an audio essay of the Dadlet Pod. Subscribe and engage with the conversation on X by following at the Dadlet Pod. You can find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.